Here to recap the 2014 legislative session, we have Senate Majority Leader Tom Bakk. Thanks for joining us, Senator Bakk.
Thank you.
Let's begin with, I was formulating my question as I was looking at you, because I'm going to change it a little bit. Instead of encapsulating the session, I would like you to tell me how you think Minnesotans benefited the most from what happened here.
Well, I guess it depends on what was important to you. I think if you're one of those families who has a child who has seizures and potentially could be helped with medical marijuana, I think those people probably feel this was just an incredible session for the quality of life for their families. If you're an accountant that cares about counting numbers, I think you probably care about the fact that we put more money in the budget reserve, that we actually put a mechanism in place that future surpluses automatically a third of the money goes into the budget reserve, which will help with the state's structural budget stability going forward in the next decades.
So would you say there's a little something for everybody?
If you're a family who's got a loved one in a residential group home, I think you would say probably the 5% campaign that was going on here that put significant new money, about $80 million a year, into taking care of long-term disabled Minnesotans. I think it depends on, there's a lot here in this session. Very, very successful session. Total duration of 12 weeks. If you take the week out for the Easter break, 11-week session. Incredible amount happened, and there's a diverse group of Minnesotans were helped by this legislative session. You
mentioned the time frame, which is, it's very unique to start that late into the year and to adjourn sine die a little bit early. So how did that affect the workload and the workflow? Was it still pretty much business as usual, or did you find that some things just had to get pushed off because there wasn't enough time?
Well, we set a pretty narrow agenda. I mean, we told legislators at the onset we had a very productive year last year. We've got a biennial budget that makes significant new investments in K-12 and early childhood, all-day kindergarten for every kid in the state. Enough money in higher education in this biennium that we're able to get 2-year freezes in tuition at the University of Minnesota and at MnSCU, enough money into property tax relief that for the first time in more than a decade, property taxes in Minnesota in the aggregate actually went down this year. So it's been a remarkable 2-year run in this biennium, and I think what we showed, as Democrats in control of the governor's office and both branches of the legislature, first time since 1990, that we could be responsible, not overreach, invest in the things that Minnesotans support, and get it done not only on time but early. No special sessions, no government shutdowns.
Senator David Hann, a little bit later in the program, we'll air that a bit later in the program, but when we spoke to him, he said that this essentially was a session of misplaced priorities. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'd like to know who he's talking to, because I guarantee you the 300 and some thousand Minnesotans that are working at the minimum wage don't feel that. The minimum wage proposal that we put into law is going to help a lot of families, and not just families that are working poor, but families where students are at college and they're having to work to help pay their way through school. A lot of Minnesotans are going to be helped by that. The Safe Schools bill. You think of, and I was on the floor today with Representative John Ward, who was born with a disability in his arm, and he said he got bullied as a kid. And so the Safe Schools bill is going to provide a much safer school environment for a lot of young people coming into the educational system. So there's just a lot of places, like I say, the long-term care disabled people, just a lot of successes in this session.
Transportation funding is something that you've already said will have to happen eventually. There's going to have to be some kind of a new funding mechanism, new funding scheme. If you could have spent more this session in taking care of that transportation funding issue, would you have? Were there things that were holding you down from spending more?
Well, there's always limitations in the resources that you have, and you have to prioritize what's most important. The largest single spending item in the state bonding bill this year was the renovations of the state capitol. I haven't done the math, but I think our state colleges and universities were probably second. Transportation was, I think, probably third. There's about $100 million of spending on transportation-related infrastructure in the bonding bill. So we made it a pretty significant priority, but it's not enough. Our transportation infrastructure is really starting to crumble. Minnesotans all know that. They've been driving around. It's about more than potholes. Our transportation infrastructure is aging, and we are going to have to put some money into it. It's going to start to impact more than just people and potholes. It's going to start to impact our economy as businesses can't move goods and services around. So I'm looking forward to the discussion about that. My caucus feels very strongly that investment in the state's transportation infrastructure is just critical to Minnesota's continued success. We're going to push hard next session to try and advance that. I have reached out to the state's business community on multiple occasions over the session, and I'm going to continue to do that over the summer. For us to be successful, we're going to have to engage the business community, the labor community, and all Minnesotans in investing in our transportation infrastructure. It's just critical to our state's success.
Senator, this was supposed to be, or it was dubbed, the Unsession. What, 1,000 Unsession laws passed this session? Does that categorize an unsession?
Well, you know, it was the governor. I don't know how the governor is going to tee that up. I don't actually know how many pages of statute we actually repealed. But certainly we did give a good hard look to a lot of things. We're able to repeal a lot of things that were redundant, maybe didn't make sense any longer. But I look more towards what we were able to accomplish and the people we were able to help. And I feel it's been a very, very successful, not only a session, but very successful two-year biennium.
I'd actually like to end with that. You gave a very compelling speech, for lack of a better word, and I don't think that's the right word, on the Senate floor at the end of the medical marijuana debate. And you talked about how really it took this grassroots effort to come in, and these parents who came in and they essentially affected law, what is now law. What kind of message do you think that sends to Minnesotans?
I think what it showed, I think when this session started, there are a few lawmakers that thought the medical marijuana would likely be the marquee issue of this session. And so not a lot of us, myself included, weren't thinking about it rising to such a level of intensity and emotion in the legislature. And it happened because a group of families with their largely disabled children came to the Capitol, and they camped out here. And they visited legislators, and they put the breath under that issue and made legislators look at the plight of my kids, and I just want them to have a better quality of life. And legislators listened. And it was just a remarkable example how a small group of people can come to their state capitol and advocate for a change, and even when no one was thinking about it, or a few people were thinking about it, it ends up happening. And it's like I said on the floor, there's a little phrase that I have on my desk at home, and it's a phrase attributable to Margaret Mead, where she said that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. And that little group of families, small as it was, are going to change the quality of life for a whole lot of Minnesotans that they don't know. And I just want to thank them for the commitment that they made here. They sacrificed a lot, and it was difficult getting those their disabled kids here, coming to look for help, and but they're going to help a whole lot of people that they don't know. It's just a remarkable effort of how representative democracy works.
All right, with those words, Mr. Leader, thank you for your time. Enjoy your interim, and we hope to see you back here soon.
Thank you.